What is your concept of heaven?
Well, heaven is a place where people of like mind and like culture are doing things for, of, and by each other. A place where those of a kind are doing what's best for themselves. Not some place you go to after you die. Matter of fact, every time you see the word heaven in the Testament, it's the word Oranos, which again is speaking of Orion, which is the star constellation. So it's not some mythical place after all. You can go outside and look at it. But then what does that all mean? In my father's house there are many mansions. What does that mean? It means that we had the right environment to thrive in when we were in that place. And we have to create that environment again. We started to do it. That's why those pyramids there in Giza line up with Orion's belt. Because we were bringing heaven to earth. It's been done. We must do it again in this cycle, or we will perish. Our planet is up for judgment. Our planet is up for judgment. We have to do this. This isn't something we could do because we want to be deep, because we want to sound good. We have to do this for our children's sake. We have to do this for our sake. We have to do this for future generations' sake. It's not going to all happen in my lifetime or your lifetime. But we have to make sure the stumbling blocks that we deal with today, our children know how to deal with them so they can get further. So heaven is the right conditions for those that thrive in that condition. And unfortunately, we've been living in the heaven of other than self and kind, which makes it our hell. You see? Me and everyone else's heaven. So like a great poet, friend of mine, Obadiah Michael Smith, he has a poem where he speaks about I'm not quoting him, but the essence of the poem was, it's talking about this beautiful article of clothing, and the fact that as beautiful as that piece of clothing is, it has an underside that is so beautiful, but it needs to be there in order to support the beautiful side. And that's what we became. We became the opposite side of the garment so that this economy could thrive, and so they could put beautiful commercials on and say, come to the Bahamas. We're the ones who have to do all of the things that nobody else wants to do so that people can have paradise in the hotels or on their tours or whatever. They say, oh, I would love to live here. Yeah. Because you don't have to live here. You don't have to work like us. We living in hell, some of us. Literally. Even the ones who have the big houses. When you really corner them and ask them, well, what's really going on? They're not happy, some of them. Some people are happy, don't get me wrong. Yeah, what they're saying is, we don't feel like dealing.
Well, see, that ties into what you said about people who master or controlled by money.
Right.
See, because the person have a lot of money, that doesn't mean that they're masters of money.
Right.
Right. See, people think because somebody has money or on the surface they might be rich. That doesn't mean that they are masters.
Right.
Because many people are mastered or controlled by money.
Right.
So, and some of them don't have any money, some of them have a lot of money.
Right. Because on every plantation, there was what was called the field hand, and you had the house hand. And the slaves in the house, they lived a lot more like the master than those in the field. So if you were to see a slave in the house, you would say, wow, they're living pretty good. But you can't be around the master and his guests in your rags, so they make sure you dress appropriately. And then they may have to teach you how to speak appropriately because you have to deal with their guests. You maybe have to ride, or you're the stage coach, so he's taking you into different areas and you have to do business. So they educate you to a certain level, but it's only because they want to control you, not because you educated yourself so that you could come now and help get others out of rags. And that's what we forgot to do. A lot of us, because we make it, and we get our 4 or 5 immediate family members straight, we say, yeah, we made it.
Well, you alluded to it earlier. I had a conversation with someone today based on some thoughts that I have. So, thought is not education.
Right.
Education does not determine thought. As a matter of fact, all one gets so-called education, one has been thinking long before that.
That's correct.
Long after education ends. one
Still thinking.
Still thinks, but the problem is, for most people, education steers their thoughts in a particular direction.
That's exactly. And that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
To train you to run the economy.
Right. So what it is,
Yeah.
what it is people are not really thinking.
No.
They're not taught the value or the power, the significance of thought.
Right.
They've been taught what to think,
Right.
but not how to think. And
Yes. We spoke about that actually last week. It as difficult as it is, and I have the utmost respect for any doctor, any lawyer, any accountant. That's truly a remarkable profession as far as the amount of work it takes to become either one of them.
yes.
The script has been written. As much as you have to think, as much as you don't have to think. Because when you get up there, they tell you what books to buy, they tell you where to read from, they tell you, they give you parameters, and they see how well you work in those parameters. But you have parameters. Now, when you step out and you say, now I have to make it on my own, I have to make things work for myself, that's when you have to really begin to think now. Because you have doctors who, okay, I got my MD, but I still broke. I spoken to doctors like this now. So now they begin to realize, okay, this really is just a tool. It's just like someone, like I spent 12 years to get this hammer. But what do you do with a hammer? Well, you got any nails? Got any wood? Do you have a blueprint? Do you have some, you know what I'm saying? You got to now begin to see, and the successful doctors have to also be successful businessmen. And they have to be successful at understanding how to use the tool of a medical degree and knowledge of a medical degree to make things happen if they're going to get really successful. I mean, you can live, you can eat, you know, even if you're not thinking, they'll say, okay, you know, you work down here in the emergency room, anybody come in, you stitch them up, you know, I do that. But they say build a successful practice and make that work. That's where the thinking actually becomes a big part of it. And that's why when I was in college, we knew some people who was working 8 and 10 years for their bachelor's degree. Been here for how long? For a 4-year degree? You could have your PhD by now. They don't want to get out there and think. I know if I just keep ticking and applying for these classes, and they can give me a schedule, it's just like being in jail. You know?
I heard Dr. Albert Schweitzer made a statement to that same effect. He said 5% of men think, 10% think that they think, and 85% would rather die than to think.
Wow. I don't know if I can argue with it. It's truly frightening to really think about how people don't like to think, and most importantly, reason. That's another aspect of ether that we were talking about, the ability to reason. Because, for example, when we look at the wars that are going on around the world today, and why they're going on around, you're dealing with a human animal. You're dealing with a beast that functions off of instinct. Okay, you blew down our buildings? We come to blow up your buildings.
What about the spiritual aspect of life?
In the Qubtic Church, when we speak of the spirit, okay, a lot of times what we have been taught is that spirituality is, how do I say it? Without even looking at the Bible first. To be spiritual, maybe it's to be quiet, meditate, light incense, chant, different,
Be all loving.
be all loving. That's what spiritual is considered. Biblically speaking, you're talking about the breath. Okay, the wind. So most times you ask people about it, they don't really have a concrete answer as to what is spirit and what is soul. In the Qubtic Church, we recognize that the spirit manifests physically as the RNA. And the soul force represents or is manifested by the DNA, which are components of the blood, which are blueprints for everything that we know as far as the physical world is concerned. Everything is packaged in here. This DNA, because we got to relate it now to the breath or the wind in the Bible and the lighting of the incense and all that stuff that maybe we were taught before we got into the word. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? D or dioxy ribonucleic acid. There's the wind, there's the oxygen with regards to the soul force. The RNA is what translates the DNA. So what the DNA is the storehouse or the sum total of all of your great ancestors that made you who you are. Alright? So people say, well, I wonder what I was in a past life. Well, if you learn about your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents and find out what they did, that's what you were. So my father's a dentist, my mother's a social worker. One side of my father's parents, one was a dentist, one was a music teacher. On my mother's side, my grandfather, he used to deal with the bark for Campari, and his wife, she was a very loving person, and she always took people in, and I could keep going on and going on and going on as far as I could find out, and those would be my past lives. All of those things are part of who I am. When I come now, my RNA or my spirit force has to decide which one of those things is going to best suit you in this day and time so that our seed can survive. So my great grandfather, he was a pastor, Bishop Enos.
Let me ask you this.
Right? Let me just finish though. Right? So when you start talking about soul and spirit, you're talking about that emotional or the emotional aspects, as in the energy in motion, as in the potential energy, which is the DNA, that becomes the kinetic energy, or your personality, or what you become in life, and the things that you do to help your seed to stay alive, because that's what eternal life is. You staying alive and having children, and they staying alive and having children, and that's why before our services we begin by placing the Ankh, or the symbol of eternal life, over ourselves, which is another topic with regards to what that means. So it's nothing spooky in the Qubtic Church. You see? That breath, the breath of life that was breathed into man so he could become a living soul, that traveled straight through the Bible. Elijah gave Elisha a double portion of the spirit, of the breath. Jesus, or Yahshua, blew on his disciples. And later on in the New Testament, you have this Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost coming in as a rushing wind for the day of Pentecost. So this wind is moving straight through the Bible. This wind, this soul, this ether, because we just read it. The ether is represented by the wind. That wind, that word wind, in the ancient African language is shu, as in Yah, Shua. So the root word of his name speaks to wind. That's why he blew on his disciples. He gave them a double portion of the Spirit. All of the things that he taught them with regards to his personality and what they experienced, along with everything that they got from their parents and what they experienced, now you have a double portion of the Spirit that is being taken out of the soul, which all is in the blood. That's why you have to be saved by the blood.
What power is there in the past?
What power is there in the past?
Yeah.
The knowledge of how to not make the mistakes that you made in the past, and the knowledge of how to continue to be successful, because we were successful in the past and we made mistakes in the past. So if we keep the things that we need from the past to forge forward into the future and eliminate those things, not forget now, but eliminate and remember the things that messed us up, then we'll have an easier path to the future.
Is the past still alive?
Yes. As long as you can remember it and think about it, it's still happening. It's called space-time continuum. That's
So your memory gives power to the past.
Your memory is that which, when we talk about, for example, the word remember, right? Say remember. Okay. Now say remember. Remember. Your memory is that which allows you to go back into the bosom of the Most High. Because your memory is that which keeps you connected to all that you are. And you can never be anything but all that you are.
So there's no memory, there's no power to the past.
Correct. And this is what we're suffering from, a lack of memory. We have to regain our memory.
So in essence, the past only gets power from the present when you give memory to it.
Yes, it's called He restoreth my soul. The word restore or restoreth is the word shub. See it there again? Shub. And to restore your soul means to give life to it again.
Yeah, what I'm saying in essence is that the real power is not really in the past, but it's in the present.
It's in the present.
It's the present.
Utilizing
power to the past.
Right. There's a term, there's an African term known as Sankofa. Sankofa. And the symbol of Sankofa is a bird traveling forward while looking back with its seed in its mouth.
What I'm trying to say, not only as far as the past is concerned, neither the past nor the future has any power.
That's right. It's only now.
The present gives it.
Yes.
So if you don't give it any focus, any attention, it has no power at all.
Right, because we're always here. All right. What do I mean by that? The root word. We write the word here. We can write the word there. We can write the word where. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is always here. That's the root word of it. Right? And this is why it's so important for us to understand what the here after is. Here on earth, moving from one age to the next. You see? Not when you die and come back. Once physical death has occurred and rigor mortis sets in, there's no coming back. As you know it today. They can take some cells and clone you, but you are not coming back the way you were. You understand? And that's a law of nature. The Most High put that law there. So why would the Most High break its own law? That's counterproductive to order.
What about the resurrection of the body?
The resurrection of the body comes by way of the birth of your children. Say the word resurrection. Res-erection. The birth of your children that give life to you again. When you and your wife become one flesh in your children. You are resurrected in them. When you pass on, you now live in their DNA and RNA. You're the voice from within, guiding them. And so if you honor in your mother and your father, you honor in yourself. Because they made you. You see? And that's what eternal life was and is for us. That's why the first commandment was, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth. You gotta keep the seed alive. There's even a book of the seed in the Bible. But they hid it from us. Because the word in Hebrew for seed is zerah. And there's a book in the Bible called Ezra. And if we move the first two letters around, there it is again, zerah. And if you read the book of Ezra, it's talking about don't mix your seed. Keep the holy seed pure. Because the holy seed allows you to be a door for your ancestors to come through you. That's what the book of and resurrect again. They begin to live through you. So if you go to the book of Psalm 24, Psalm 24 verse 7. Psalm 24 verse 7, I'll just jump right into it. It says, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Right? So we are these gates, we are these doors. And that's why in Revelation chapter 21, when it speaks about the New Jerusalem, it speaks about 12 gates. The 12 tribes, consisting of 12,000 each, 144,000, each having its own personality, spirit. You see what I'm saying? Each being a door to the Most High, entering this plane of existence, the physical plane. But we have forgotten that we are the doors, and we let others use us to usher in their world. And so the same boot that you shine is the same one that up against your neck the next 5 minutes later. That's your thanks.
Is man a spirit also?
Man is a living soul. First of all, we got to be clear that as children of the Most High, we are not just but men.
Yes, what I ask you, is man a spirit? Because God is described by Yeshua or Jesus as spirit. And as Son of God, is man a spirit, or is he a soul? Or is he a spirit that has a soul?
In Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 7, it speaks of the breath of life being blown into man, the shoe being blown into man, and man becoming a living soul.
Right, but that man, that was the man that was formed, not the man that was made. See, the man that was made was in Genesis chapter 1 when God said, let us make man in our image and our likeness. And God does not have flesh. And God is more than a soul. God is spirit. So if man
there's a spiritual aspect, there's a physical aspect, there's a mental aspect.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
All of those have a higher principle that represent what we call God.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not only one thing. So God isn't only spirit, or only physical, or only soul, or only mental. Each one of those aspects has a higher or the highest principle where the Most High dwells.
So in other words, Yahshua would have been a representation for God here on the planet.
That's right, the best example. And that's why he said, follow me. And he called his followers disciples, which is another word for pupil.
What I'm saying is it right to say that man is all of those things? Spirit, soul, and body.
Yes. All of those that were made in the image and after the likeness. Okay. You understand?
Yeah,
because
that's what I was trying to...
Right, because you have those that are made in the image and after the likeness, and then you have mankind.
Right.
Which is spirit, not necessarily soul.
Which is the God kind.
Which one?
mankind is the God kind, because if you go to Genesis,
Well, we have to be clear. When you're saying God, what do you mean?
here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When God made everything after its kind, He
Right.
said, "Let us make man in our image and our likeness."
Right.
He didn't say that man was like the cattle or the beast or any of those things. He said
That's
man
right.
is like him.
That's right.
And so, if man is like him, all the things that was made after their kind, then man is the God kind.
Right.
That is what I'm
The
saying.
confusion, I think, let me know if I'm wrong, comes in when we were introduced to God in the Bible. They introduced it as a spirit. But in the original stories, these weren't spirits. These were
Well, the
physical
reason
men and
for
women.
that is because if you look at it from the perspective that when it says in the beginning God, it didn't refer to God having any form.
Well, in the English, it doesn't. In the Hebrew, the word is Elohim,
Yes.
which is the fourth part of the word El. El or Elo, Eloha, Elohim. Alright? And these Elohim had to be male and female, because those that they made in their image and after their likeness, male and female created He them.
Right.
So they themselves then also had to be male and female. Otherwise, that makes no sense.
So male and female in a physical sense.
Yes, yes. Because these were physical. What they did with the King James version is they separated any notion of physical entities having done these things. And they've done it in science, they've done it in religion, they've done it throughout our learning process, so that we don't ever make that actual link and the actual reality of, we did this. We are them. If they could do it, so can we. That's what Jesus was telling them. Is it not written in your law? Ye are gods. They threw rocks off them.
Or Psalms 82.
And Psalm 82. That then goes on to say, and you all children of the Most High.
That's the law right there. What he's talking about is
Yeah.
in your Psalm 82.
Right, exactly. So we have to, in the Qubtic church, what we're saying is, yes, if our parents are what they're calling gods, then we have to be little gods.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say the God kind. But,
Right, but
my understanding is that the God kind is spirit.
Well, like I said, in the Qubtic church, we're spirit too.
Yeah.
Because we have RNA
Okay.
and we have DNA.
When I say spirit, what I mean is that which is not seen.
Well, there are aspects of us that are not seen.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is,
what I mean-
you cannot in the physical world exist having separated the spirit from the physical.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, that's what I
What
want to
I'm
be clear
saying in
on.
essence, man is three-dimensional. But
And
yet
even
still
more,
one.
yes.
It's still one.
They have trapped us in a 3-dimensional world. We're really 9-dimensional.
Okay. But I don't know about that.
Yeah. We're really 9-dimensional.
I've not been exposed to that.
Okay, okay.
Let me ask you, what is your teaching about the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God?
The kingdom of heaven, again, like as we stated before, when we, in our right minds, in our 9 mind, in our correct mind, when we were in our proper environment, in the proper conditions where our culture could thrive, that was our heaven on earth. And we have to make that distinction, because we didn't only have heaven on earth. We had heaven throughout the boundless universes. They still exist. That's why Jesus was saying, I have to go and prepare a place. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. Many mansions. A house being a constellation, and the mansions being the various star systems in that constellation. And the conditions amongst those star systems that allows for those that were like Yahshua to live in peace, in balance. You see, this is the struggle that we have in this day and time, insofar as if we don't come together and learn how to use the resources that the planet offers us, so that we can once again live in the right conditions, then we will never have heaven on earth. And no one has come back to say that there's a heaven after death. So that's a big gamble.
But I think what we talked about in the mall, one way we can come to that awareness, that's another word obviously for consciousness, is that we need to learn about systems. We talk about systems in the mall. Most people are not taught about systems.
No, because most people are not taught about nature. Because nature is the best teacher of systems.
That's where all systems.
That's where they come from, and that's the source of it. There's no system that doesn't have nature's handprint all over it. All systems has nature's handprint all over it. When we say the word nature, that's another way of saying the word that they got the Elohim from is this word Niteru. Niteru. This word Niteru has the same consonants as the word nature. See what they did? They took, because the Niteru has faces. You can see pictures of them. You could go to Africa today and see statues of them and drawings of them. But they said, no, we don't need you to see nature in that way. We just need you to see trees and streams and birds and ants, because you won't make the link that you were the ones that constructed or helped to construct or were a part of constructing this environment. You'll always wait on some rushing wind to come in and save the day, instead of using the hands that we gave you. The helping hand that you're looking for is at the end of your arm. And that's the connection. We have to remember who we were. These Niteru, also known as Al-Khami, which is another way of saying alchemist or chemist.
Even when you're saying that the DNA and RNA, and when you tie to them with when they ask, where's heaven? And they said, well, heaven is within.
Yes, that's another in Luke chapter 17.
So that's still referring to your ancestors, your DNA, RNA, the ability to make that environment.
Because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You can't build something around you if it's not already in you in the first place.
Right.
So Luke chapter 17.
I mean, like, just as an example, like they in our day and time, they say, well, if you want vitamin C, you got to eat orange.
Right.
When in fact, you have vitamin C already built in you when the orange stimulates the vitamin C already in your body.
Right.
It's like they try to trick you into thinking you have an outside source of it.
Right. Just like education.
Yeah.
Education is supposed to spur what's in you. The Latin word educare means to draw out.
Right. That, the Greeks also
call out.
Educo, which means to draw out from within.
That's right.
That's where they get it. Where they
Yes.
from.
Yeah, and that was what the church was supposed to do too. Call out. Call out your greatness. You see? And until we start to stop standing in front of people's greatness and saying you have to come through me to get it. That's not our job as pastors or anybody in the church. It's not our job to stand in front of somebody and say you got to come through me. That's what Paul was doing. Paul was saying, if you be like me, I'm being like Jesus, so be like me and then you be like Jesus. No, we don't. That's not what we teach. That's not what Jesus even taught. So you got to become one with the Father. I'm one with the Father. You become one with me, you become one with the Father. At one-ism. At one-ism. Atonism.
I understand that to mean atonement at one.
At one, that's right, because at one moment.
Yeah.
That's how it happens, in the twinkling of an eye.
At one meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see?
Atonement.
Because if you look up the word peace in the Bible, it means at one. You got to be if you're one with yourself, who's inside you? Your parents, your grandparents, your great parents, all the way back to the Most High. So to be at one with that is to be at peace, is to be balanced. And that's when you begin to tap into the full potential. You see? To be at one with the knowledge is to say, yes, we do know that these are sockets, and if we could plug in a lamp, we'd have more light instead of burning candles only. And that's what we're doing. We haven't figured out really what this anatomy that we have, this temple that we walking around with, is all about. So we abuse it, we paint it. You know what I'm saying? We make it big, we make it small. We tattoo it. We don't know what it is.
You say painted, that's what I thought about tattoo.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, we paint the nails, put the makeup on. You see what I'm saying? We don't know what it is. So we just.
Well, the reason for that is because most people are only familiar with the outer court.
That's correct.
That's where they worship at the outer court. And some people are familiar with the inner court.
Right.
Very few people enter into the holies of holies.
That's right. Man, know thyself.
Yeah.
Man, know thyself.
So people look in the mirror and they look at the outer court and that's all they see.
Yes. And if they're not aware, like you say, of the inner court or the holy of holies, then they begin to mimic others that are ruling them and think, well, if I look like this, if I look like them, then I'll act like them, then I'll be like them. They want you to make that connection, but they don't want you to make the connection of the Niteru, who have your eyes and your nose and your lips and your complexion and your hair. That's the fear of having a black president. There's a picture. I always talk about this. There's a picture of a little boy. The president is bowed. He bent down to the little boy, and the little boy is touching his hair. And right after he touches his hair, the president's hair, he goes and touches his own hair. It brought tears to my eyes because I said he made the link. Because he said, he's the president. He's the most powerful man in the world right now politically. Yeah. His hair looked like my hair. But let me feel it.
Obama, you mean?
Yeah, Obama. Little boy. Little black boy.
Okay.
Little black boy.
He's trying to make the link.
He looked at Obama's hair. He felt his hair. He said, I know what my hair feel like. My hair look like his hair. Yeah. But let me see if your hair feel like my hair. Because if your hair feel like my hair, buddy, I could do what you could do. That's the link.
And that's what seeing those pictures on the walls and those great stories, that's what that does.
That's right. And that's why they have to remove those and then they place an image of their likeness. And then tell you, we're not sure exactly, what the disciples look like or how Jesus looked like. Yeah, but you got a picture of what you saying Jesus is. That's a problem for us. For them that look like that picture, it works. And I don't have a problem with that. I have no problem with that. For you. But you can't tell me I have to do that too. You can't tell me I have to do that. I won't listen to that. You see, that makes me your slave, and I can't.
Especially when the Bible you gave me says otherwise.
That's right. The Bible that you plagiarized from. And now they're saying it now in the beginning of this. King James Zondervan Bible. They speak about. It's right here. That's why I just smiled.
Why are there so many different colors? Why is there so many different colors? You're black, and then you're white, and then you're...
Okay, I'll explain it.
I mean, after you finish.
Yeah. Ancient texts relating to the Old Testament. You have these Dead Sea Scrolls, Gilgamesh epics. You have Atrahasis, Amenope's wisdom. This comes out of Egypt. The Amarna letters. Amarna is where Akhenaten, it's the city he built. They built this Bible off of the stuff of our ancestors, but now they admit it. It's in here. It's in here now. So when you ask why there's so many colors,
I mean, in view of, okay, there was one man that was made, and out of that man came all men, right? So if it was one original man, which was the blueprint, right? How come there's so many different hues of that one man?
right? So that's what they want us to think, that there was one man. There's a African or melanite or black Adam. There's a Hindu Adam. There's a Greco-Roman or European Adam. That's why in the Bible they don't say it like that, but we have to ask the question. That's why you say one man was created, one man was formed.
Right.
It's speaking of different atoms. It's not talking about the same atom. Genesis 1:26, Genesis 2:7, all the way up to Genesis 6 when you start dealing with Noah. All these are different atoms. And all these different atoms have different genetic potency with regards to the amount of melanin they have. Because all races have melanin. Some have more than others. And that's based on who they are with regards to the amount of ether that they have coming forth from what they call the etheric or the spiritual realm or the blood. So in nature, we in the Qubtic church understand that there were three creations. There's primary or original creation, there's secondary creation, and there's tertiary creation. Each one of those creations gave birth to a different type of man, which is what you see today. So some of those, the original, which science has now proved, and has been proven now for a long time, have the ability to live in a wider range of climatic zones than those that are of the secondary or tertiary creation. This is just science. This is what they're finding out in the Human Genome Project, that all races can come out of the so-called black race, but the black race cannot come out of all races. So they had to be the original.
So you believe it's more than one race?
I have a degree in biology, right? One of the first things we learned in genetics was to discard the word race. Because at the end of the day, when you start dealing in genetics and genes, you're dealing with dominant and recessive. You don't deal in race. You deal in alleles and you deal in germs. The brown germ are those that are less than brown. Science, this is before I went to seminary, right? The expression of genes, which is what gives you phenotype, is where race comes in. Race is something that was utilized to really cause the division of people that all were made to represent a unique aspect of the Most High. We all have a purpose, and in having that purpose, we were made to uniquely discover and fulfill that purpose. And if we did that, we kept the ecology of the planet in sync.
Kind of like
When we start crossing lines,
Balance.
balance.
not a lion and a tiger. They're both cats, but they don't.
They made a
Oh yeah, liger.
yeah.
Yeah, and that if you do research on it, and they even have documentaries on it, it has all kinds of problems. It has all kinds of genetic problems. It grows so big that it can't even carry its own weight.
Wow.
Because there's certain genes that are still on
I mean,
that the tiger is like it's a smaller cat.
right.
That the lion is so big, or is it the liger? Anyway, one is so big that the hybrid of them both has a lot of troubles, a lot of genetic ills, and that's what's happening to us. We've been crossing the lines of nature, and therefore the byproduct, now we have all these diseases because we didn't stay within bounds. Nature created these bounds. Not that one was so much better than the other. That's not what we're saying.
In your environment.
You were made to fulfill a purpose. And if we respect each other for the purpose that we have to fulfill, everybody can be happy. But as soon as you get up and say, no, we are the best race, and you are less than us, and we have to, you know what I'm saying? When you start doing that, that's the confusion right there.
God and our image and your doing.
Yeah, you gotta worship people who look like us. I mean, you can't worship people who look like you, and you gotta speak our language, and you can't speak your own language. And, you know, we can take some of your women and we can impregnate them because we want to be able to walk the earth like you do, but we want them to think like us. That's what's going on today. So we recognize that tribes and families and so-called race was the Most High's way of identifying or having us identify our place and our purpose. And this is why you have different climatic regions. We don't all want to be in the cold. Some people want to be in the cold, some people want to be in the sun. So the people who want to be in the sun, we can make sure they have some more sun protection on. The people who don't want to be in there, they don't need as much. Simple truth. We've confused it. Confused. Fuse? Mixed? You see what I'm saying? So we don't get caught up in race. We recognize and respect it though. Because anybody who tells me they're colorblind, I immediately say, oh, you're a racist. What you mean I'm a racist? Because you telling me you don't recognize my race. Which means you don't recognize my culture. Which means you don't recognize my heritage. You don't recognize my environment. You don't recognize me. You're trying to tell me I'm just like everybody else. So one size fits all. One size does not fit all. You see? So that's what they've done with religion. They've done it with economies. They've done it with social orders. They've done it one size fit all. Our size gotta fit you. And that's where the problem starts. And they're afraid that we can do it back to them. But that's not us. That's why they were scared for Obama to be president. He gonna put us back in slavery. No. Got time for that. Gotta fix the economy. Next term though. No, that's joking. So I hope that you know we've helped you to understand a little bit more about what we're doing here, you know, at the Holy Qubtic Church. There's so much that we have to share with everybody. Ideally, I would love to do this every night, because we need to do it every night to get all the information up. You know, it's so much. But we'll get there. We'll get to the point where this is a teaching church. We always tell people this is a teaching church. So it's just like school. If you come 2 days of the week out in school, and time you come back a month later, we didn't pass that. We done down the road from that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta go get tutoring to catch up, right? So we're not there yet. But you know, we just that's the Most High wills. We will grow and we'll teach, and you know we'll fulfill our purpose. You know. Anything else before you wrap up? Or?
What percentage of your church are business people?